If you feel like sports betting is just everywhere all of a sudden, plastered across commercials, podcasts, social media, you are not imagining it. This thing has absolutely exploded into a massive global phenomenon in just a few short years. And just to give you some scale here, get this. In 2023 alone, Americans wagered $119 billion on sports. That is just an insane number. It's more than the entire economy of a lot of countries. But honestly, the money is only half the story.
So, let's get into the real question we need to be asking, because if you think you're just, throwing a few bucks on your favorite team, you might be missing the bigger picture. You could be walking right into a very carefully designed system.
So in this explainer, we're going to break down that trap. We're going to look at the legal loopholes that basically put a casino in your pocket, the psychology these apps use to keep you hooked, and, this is the big one, the one specific type of bet they are praying you make. Okay, first things first, we have to understand how we even got here, because for a long, long time, all of this was totally illegal. What you're doing on your phone right now, yeah, that could have landed you in some serious trouble just a couple decades ago. So what changed? All right, let's trace the path here. Back in '92, a law called PASPA essentially banned sports betting everywhere except Nevada. The idea was to protect the integrity of the game. Then, in 2006, something really interesting happened. A law meant to crush online gambling had this tiny, almost hidden little exemption for fantasy sports, calling them a game of skill. That little detail? It changed everything. And then boom, 2018, the Supreme Court strikes down that original ban, opening the floodgates for every state to make its own rules. That 2006 loophole, that was the key. Companies we all know, like FanDuel and DraftKings, they saw that little exemption for fantasy sports and just drove a truck right through it. They took the slow, season-long fantasy leagues we all knew and turned them into daily fantasy. Functionally, it was sports betting, but legally, it was a game of skill. And this quote just nails it. This was the Trojan Horse. While real betting was still banned, these companies spent a decade building massive user bases, perfecting their mobile apps, and just normalizing the whole idea of putting money on games from your phone. So when the federal ban finally lifted in 2018, who do you think was ready to take over? Exactly. All right, now let's get to the second layer of this story. And honestly, it's arguably the more dangerous one, the app itself. See, these aren't just simple tools for placing bets. Oh no, they are sophisticated platforms designed by neuroscientists and UI experts to basically short-circuit the logical part of your brain. Just think about how different it is. Back in the day, you had to physically go somewhere, use actual cash, get a paper ticket. There was friction, there was time. You had a moment to think, should I really be doing this? Today, it is completely frictionless, it's instant. App designers call this reducing the time to reward. And the faster you can go from an impulse to a wager, the less time your rational brain has to jump in and hit the brakes. And these apps, they pull tricks straight from the slot machine playbook. One of the biggest is called the near miss effect. So let's say you bet that a player would score 20 points, and he ends up with 19. You lost, right? But your brain doesn't see it as a total failure. It registers it as, oh, I was so close, and it gives you a dopamine hit that's almost identical to actually winning. And what does that make you want to do? Bet again, immediately. And then there's the cash out button. Now, this feels like a great feature, right? It gives you control, it lets you take a smaller profit before the game is even over. But what it's really doing is transforming you from a passive fan just watching a game into an active participant who's glued to the app, making these constant, high-stress micro-decisions with every single play. It keeps you on the hook. And what about those risk-free bonus bets? You've seen the ads. Bet $5, get $150 instantly. Well, it sounds like free money, but I promise you it is not. It's basically monopoly money, credits that you have to wager inside their system. They are more than willing to give you $150 in credits because they know the lifetime value of a new customer is thousands and thousands of dollars. It's just a customer acquisition cost, that's all. So once you're in the system, the app starts nudging you, pushing you toward its most profitable product. Look, if you only learn one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. There is one specific bet that powers this entire industry. And the math here is it's brutal. On a simple, straight bet, like, just picking one team to win, the sportsbook keeps about 5% of all the money wagered. That's their cut, the juice. But on a parlay bet, they keep on average 30% or more. The difference in how much money they make is it's astronomical. So what even is a parlay? Well, it's when you combine a bunch of different bets into one single ticket. So, for example, you bet that the Chiefs will win, and Patrick Mahomes will throw 2 touchdowns, and Travis Kelce will catch a pass. All 3 of those things have to happen. If even one of them fails, you lose everything. Let's just use a simple coin toss to see the hidden math here. One flip, it's 50-50. You bet $10, a fair payout is $10 profit. Simple. But what about predicting 2 flips in a row? That's a 2-leg parlay. Your odds drop to 25%. So a mathematically fair payout on your $10 bet would be $30 profit. But the app, it's only going to pay you around $26. See? They just shave a little value right off the top. And that shave gets bigger and bigger with every single leg you add to the bet. And the latest invention, the real moneymaker, is the same game parlay. This lets you bet on all these tiny micro events inside a single game. And what it does is it creates this illusion of knowledge. You think, oh, I know this team, I know this quarterback, I can predict this. But sports are just chaotic. One random penalty, one slipped receiver, and your entire beautiful complex bet is completely dead. You lose. But you tell yourself, man, I was so close, and you go right back and bet again. So here we are. We've got a legal system that allows all this, an app specifically designed to get you addicted, and a product engineered to drain your wallet. And the result of all this is a kind of quiet financial crisis. But what can you actually do about it? And the consequences are really serious. One study found that for every single dollar people increased their betting, their savings actually went down by $2. I mean, think about that. That means people aren't just using fun money. They're pulling from their retirement accounts, their emergency funds, all to chase losses. So look, if you are going to bet, you need to protect yourself. You need some safety gear. First, avoid parlays. Period. Just stop. Stick to straight bets where the house edge is actually manageable. Second, use unit management. Professionals never risk more than 1 or 2% of their total bankroll in a single game. And third, recognize and beat the churn. The app is built for speed, for impulse. You have to force yourself to slow down. This quote right here really puts it all into perspective. If you find your bets are getting bigger and bigger just to make the game feel exciting, you've moved past strategic wagering. You're not really betting anymore. You're just paying for a feeling, for that expensive hit of dopamine. And really, that's the final question you've got to ask yourself. The companies behind these apps, they are banking on you ignoring the math and just chasing that feeling, that high. But now that you understand the trap, you can choose not to play their game.